You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to the Supernatural Chat Show with your host, Sean Cadman, only on Parasearch Radio.
Well, good evening, all you lovely people out there in Listerland, and welcome once again to the Supernatural Chat Show with me, your host, Sean Cadman. Well, tonight we've got a slight change to the original advertised programme. We're still talking about protection, etc., within investigations and the paranormal, but it's my guest who's changed tonight. Unfortunately, the guest, Sam Sweeting, who was originally coming on, is full of cold and can't make it. But I'm sure you'll all be enthralled with our replacement tonight. I'd like to welcome you all to Bear MedicineWalker, all the way from Michigan, USA. How are you, Bear?
Well, I'm doing wonderful. It's a little cold up here, but other than that, hey, we got a little bit of ice and snow today yet, and it's supposed to be spring.
Wow. Yeah, it's not too warm over here at the moment. The temperature seems to have dropped again today, but it's no ice and snow at the moment, so we're not doing too bad.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, it should be good, yeah, definitely. Well, for our listeners who don't know who you are, just want to take a little time just to introduce yourself to everybody and explain what you do and a bit about yourself.
Well, sure. I am a spiritual medium empath. I'm also an artist, and I am part Native American. And my father was Cherokee and born up in Quebec, Canada. And I am 57, proud 57 now. And I've seen spirits since I was a kid. As a child, I always thought everybody could see spirit. I didn't know that everybody couldn't. Walked away from it many times in my lifetime. I had many, many teachers over the years, and probably back in 2004, I got picked up and set back down on the path by spirit and said, that's it, you're supposed to be doing this. And so that's what I do now. And I love it. I have met many people through doing it and worked with many spirit doing it, and hopefully helped some people along the way. And so that's about it. Just a simple little bear up in a cave on a lake in Michigan.
Wow. What were some of the reasons that you backed away then originally? Was it just had enough? Or?
Well, growing up in the 60s, things aren't as they were now, the 60s and 70s, and people weren't accepting of it. It was kind of like, you see what? And they kind of thought you were crazy. I was adopted, and my parents were Catholic. My parents were also very supportive of me. They knew I saw spirit, and I was very blessed to have many people in my life that did. But it was really, really super scary. for a kid who had nowhere to go, nowhere to get answers, because even as you know today, there's no book for dummies that says, okay, you see spirit, this is how it's supposed to go. It just doesn't work that way,
That's right. Definitely doesn't.
So yeah, just, got into high school then and saw some pretty scary things, scared a lot of friends. People walked away because they were scared of it. So I walked away from it. Then came back to it in my 20s and walked away from it again. And because it's like you're shown things sometimes that, it's like, what am I supposed to do with this information? Or, how do I tell these people? So it was kind of about getting a maturity of life, and gathering more life experiences and, went to college. So I got background in that, went in and took psychology classes and kind of learned how people roll. And I basically deal with, I guess no other way to put it is death. I mean, it's spirit, but it's also people who are transitioning. And I worked at Children's Hospital in downtown Detroit, Michigan, for many years. And that's what brought it back full circle for me. And it was how I got my native name. And, it brought it, like I said, full circle. And it's what I do. I work with people to help them resolve issues, help them to reground and kind of wind up on a more positive place, I guess would be the way to put it.
Do you think your psychology studies that you did help your mediumship and things like that?
The psychology actually gave me a better understanding of myself and my limits, and it gave me confidence in the fact that I learned kind of the science of it, that we don't use the left side of our brain. And this is basically where they found what I do comes from and what others do comes from. It's that part of the brain. So yeah, it was kind of a confidence builder for me, but more personal than for other people. But it also gives you a way of being able to I'm very blunt. As many people can tell you that know me, I'm very blunt. And when spirit deals with me, they know I'm blunt, and, I'm going to serve it to you kind of the best way I can for that moment in a very loving way. But I'm not going to mince words as far as making it all seem through rose-colored glasses that, life isn't that way.
That's right.
Life is good, bad, and indifferent, and we're here to experience it. So I'm not going to blow smoke up your rear end, I guess would be a good way to put it. So that's what psychology taught me.
I think that's the best way, though, actually, sometimes, to be blunt and to the point with people. There's no, especially dealing with spirit and things, there's no point beating around the bush.
Oh, absolutely not. The stuff I've seen over the years, it gives, I'm okay, for lack of a better way, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but the way I view things is in real time. I'm real about my responses. I'm real about the responses that spirit give. Like, you'll see shows on TV that deal with the paranormal, and some of them, and I'm sure you've seen them too over the years, they're out there, and every spirit they come to is evil, and every spirit they come to is demonic, and everything is going to carry home with them. And it's like, yeah, no, that's not how it is in reality. I'm not saying that there's not dynamic things out there, because there is. But my thing is, if people are idiots, I'll say, I won't cuss right now. But if they're idiots in life, they're going to be mean and idiots in death. Okay, if something they did was horrific, like in the old days, back centuries, and they did something horrific like murder or rape, or they were just idiots, okay, it can hold them to where they are because they didn't accomplish something positive for their soul to be able to move forward. What I'm saying? So it's like I'm kind of real about that stuff. I look at people sometimes and I just shake my head, and it's like, oh, what planet did people come from, you know?
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from with that one. Do you think being Native American helps with what you do?
I don't know if it helps, but it's definitely something that's inside of me. You know, it's kind of a generational thing. My daughter has the gift too, although she's only 25, so she's not really wanting to experience some of the stuff that I have, but she does experience some of it, just not publicly, I guess. But the Native Americans, I'm very spiritual. Always have been, always been connected to the planet, to the earth, to the creatures, to spirit. It's something that I've believed in all my life. I believe that spirit can protect. I believe that spirit can do harm if it's meant to, and it's old at some points. So yeah, in many ways, I guess it's helped me. It just depends on what kind of view you're taking from it, what perspective you're taking from it, I guess.
I mean, obviously, you mentioned protect there, which we can sort of use a bit of a segue into the protection side of tonight's show. Do you think that protection on an investigation is an important part?
I do 100%. I think that not only during investigation, I think extremely during any investigation, but any time that you're going to do anything with the spirit realm, including reads, including, cards, reading cards, whatever it is, if you're going to be dealing with it, you better know about it and you better protect yourself, because you never know what spirit's going to come through. So if you go to, say, the Hall of Justice, which Sam's group just went through the other day, and I watched Brent and Sam go through there. Okay, and you don't do a protection spell or a protection prayer or carry a medicine pouch or protection pouch, which I carry all the time with me. There's things that can affect you in pretty harsh ways if you go in kind of without any of that. I mean, look back to centuries of time, even into like when the Druids were walking the earth. The people have used crystals for protection and stones for protection and herbs, and the natives, we use sage and sweetgrass and lavender and tobacco. These are all, you don't just see this being used for centuries and think it didn't work. I mean, because they're still all using it. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So it definitely must have some effect, right? And I know scientifically, if you look at, say, citrine, okay, a piece of citrine, stone, crystal, or whatever, and you hold it up, it's been scientifically proven that it repels negative energy, okay? Sage, if you burn sage, okay, is proven to clear the energy field. I mean, it's a scientific proven fact. So, I think it's very, very important, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to get Uncle Johnny, who's some pervert from 3 centuries ago, going home with me. I mean, I got enough.
Definitely not. No.
I got enough of my own life issues. I don't need somebody else's from 3 centuries ago. You know what I mean?
Do you think, you've seen on a lot of investigations, people they gather everybody together and they do a protection prayer over them, etc. Do you think that's the best way, or everybody has the sort of their own personal way of protecting?
I think when you're gathering as a group on a property, no matter how big, no matter how small, I think you need to do a group protection prayer, or verbally say something out loud as a group, because some people say, well, I don't pray. Well, I don't know about you, but any ghost show I've ever watched, they sure are doing praying when them walls are starting to knock back at them or starting to bang. And if that ain't prayer, I don't know what it is. So whatever, yeah, I think as a group they need to. But I also believe, and I'm a huge advocate for this and feel very strongly that we should all carry some form of protection with us when we do this kind of work. I don't care if you're doing it like you are here on radio, whether you go out and actually, are trying to record and capture spirit on film or recorder. I don't care if you're doing spirit photography out in the woods. I don't care if you're doing the work I do and working with clients. I believe that it is utmost important to have protection with you.
Yeah. I agree completely. Often see people, we host a few events, I think you often see people just off the go and getting on with it. And it makes you wonder whether they've done their own personal protection or people refuse to take part in a protection circle of their own or prayer at the beginning. And I mean, personally, myself, it just makes me wonder what their mindset is to just get on with something like that.
Well, don't you think that sometimes some of these people are just kind of like what we call them here in the U.S. are weekend warriors? Like they're dabbling. They're not really, They want to see because they're curious. And, what's the old saying? Curiosity killed the cat.
Yeah, definitely. But you touched on the TV shows there, everything to them is demonic and evil. And I think by them going in with that attitude that everything's negative and everything's out to hurt them, that they're actually tempting them things to come forward.
Well, and again, not all the shows do it. And matter of fact, like I said, a couple of them I absolutely love, and I really respect the people that are out there doing the investigations. But there are some, and I don't know about over by you, but I know in the U.S. there are definitely a couple, and I won't say their names out loud, but they go into these places. Like you go into a prison, okay? Well, what's a prison full of, right? Prison is full of, when it's active and live, it's full of people who are bad, people who have done really bad things, and people who really don't have balanced minds for the most part, right? Yeah. And if the prison's closed, okay, but it's been open for eons, it's going to kind of absorb all that negative energy that was in there. So the walls and the building itself and the property had all this energy with nowhere to go but keep bouncing off of each other. So if you go in, okay, and you're just looking for sound bites or you're looking for films, it's great, and I've seen people do that, and they've found stuff, and they've gotten nervous, and they've gotten a little scared about it. But then, like you said, you see people go in and they provoke, okay? Like I've seen them go in and say, I'm here, come and kill me, you stabbed somebody, you're a wimp, you're a, and they use profanity, and they're like, then they come and they actually get physically shoved. I mean, physically, you can see them getting shoved to a point where they're falling on their rear ends. Okay, what do you think's going to happen? So yeah, provoking in a negative response is going to bring through negative things. Will it bring through demons? My belief, and this is strictly my belief, is no, not unless something that dark is already there.
Yeah. I've said this all along when they're on about, there's a demon and things on, like obvious are saying demon. It's like, my personal belief is if that was a legitimate demon in that building with you, you would know about it. It wouldn't just be telling you it was a demon through a piece of equipment.
Absolutely. Have you ever I'm just because I haven't spoken to you before, have you ever come across an energy like that, a demon or a demonic energy?
I've come across what I'd class as a demonic entity once in my life, and it's something that I'll never, ever forget.
Right. And it's something you're not going to repeat the name. I've come across it twice, and I can tell everybody, and I have many times when they've asked me about stuff like that, is it scared the living poop out of me? And I guarantee you I don't want nothing to do with it anymore, and I both times got hold of tribal elders, and I got hold of a priest.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it by myself. And this person one was a person that had attachments, and one was a place that had a dark, deep energy. And, the one that was attached to the person, we found out how it came through, and we know who and what it was by name, and I would never repeat the name, and I would never want to deal with it again. So these people, again, it's like entertainment value, and sometimes that can be dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody actually who's listening knows this story. So to me and my family, so it's about the first time I've actually spoke about this. Going back about 12 years ago, myself and my wife, we used to run a Christian youth group from our own home. And we built it up from 3 kids up to, we used to have 50 coming in our house every week. And a lot of them were skateboarders and things, and just a lot of people who think were wayward kids and not worth speaking to. We'd have them all in our home, we'd give them pizza and just chat to them. And there was one lad that came, and he was Spanish. He lived in Spain for many years, and his whole family was heavily involved in voodoo.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And
yeah.
we were sat in our lounge one night in our sitting room, and there's some glass doors, and we had a conservatory, and the lights are on in the sitting room, and suddenly noticed that you couldn't see into the conservatory. The windows had just gone black. Now, the light always shined through into the conservatory, but it was just like somebody put black curtains across it, and the atmosphere in the house just changed. It went horrible. And at the time, I thought, I'm brave. I opened the conservatory, went in, and you could feel it. You could feel the oppression all over you. Mm-hmm. This Spanish lad, cutting a long story short here, he was starting to cry, and he says, it's here, it's followed me, it's followed me. A few of us went into the conservatory, and this was the middle of summer. There was not an ounce of breeze, beautiful warm night, and we was praying this thing, and we went through quite a few bits and bobs, and all of a sudden, the noise, I've never heard anything like it. I never want to hear it again. What people class as a growl was no comparison. The conservatory doors burst open and slammed all the way back, the full extent against the side of the conservatory, shook the conservatory. A load of these big, strong skateboarding lads who nothing scares them burst into tears and started screaming. And there's the energy that shot round the room and rushed out the doors, actually nearly took 2 people to the floor.
Yep.
And everybody said, what was that? We looked to the bottom of the garden and stood at the bottom of the garden, and people often say, oh, you exaggerate. But without an exaggeration, there was a black figure with glowing red eyes, must have been 10 foot tall. Mm-hmm. And it stood there for about 5 minutes, just staring back up at the house before it just disappeared before everybody could see it. Even people who weren't in the conservatory at the time were stood in the kitchen, were shouting, what's that? What's that? Mm-hmm. In a few other terms, but I won't repeat them on the radio, stood at the bottom of the garden. But the noise and the feeling of this thing rushing around the conservatory, I'll never, ever in my life want to repeat that again.
Well, and it's not anything to play with. And that's why these people that get on these entertainment shows that say, oh, it's a demon, or they say, oh, I see, a dark figure with red glowing eyes. It's like, yeah, dude, if you saw that, you wouldn't be standing right there right now. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. And it's just not something to fool with. And voodoo, voodoo, let me tell you, voodoo. People who don't believe in voodoo they can do that, but I'm not having nothing to do with it. It's old religion, it's an old craft, and it's been around for, again, centuries. It's old magic, it's old touch, and it's beyond magic. It's spirituality. It's their religion. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to fool with that.
No. That's something that, again, it's like another thing we're going to talk about today is provocation. And it astounds me sometimes when you see the levels of provocation that some people go to. And I stand there and I think, how are you going to react if whatever you're provoking reacts to your provocation?
Well, one day they may learn, I posted yesterday over on social media. I was finishing up the article I mentioned to you a little bit ago. I had written a piece about Harry Houdini because as many people who follow spiritualists and what have you, it's always been said that he never came back through seances or mediumship. And I've studied and dug up paperwork. It's taken me probably over a year. And I've always been kind of inspired by him. But I found stuff that's been hidden kind of under the rug, so to speak, he was a member of the Freemasons and the temple and all that stuff. So some of the stuff that had got put in under. So as I'm finishing up this article, now mind you, I've been working on it for 2 months, right? And so yesterday I finally sat down and I said, I got to finish this, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm finishing and I'm not provoking, okay? All my windows in my house were shut. It's 28 degrees out. And all of a sudden, this whining comes into the house. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I kind of look up and it's this big wind. And my blinds started shaking. And I'm like, okay, where's this coming from? So I got up and I went around the house and I checked all the windows. Everything was shut. Everything was closed. Made myself a cup of tea. Came back down. It had calmed down again. And I was like, this is just weird. Sat down again to finish the article. Guess what? It started again. So you don't even have to provoke, okay, if something's coming through. And it was interesting because I was writing about the Freemasons at that point. So, who's to say that that's not, I didn't have to provoke it. It came through anyway. So you're right. These people that are provoking, to me, are foolish. They're just foolish. They're just foolish people dabbling in something for money. Yeah. I'm just putting it out there for money.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it on events that we've hosted and been out where, I can understand a level of provocation where you're like, come on, talk to us, please, come on. But when it gets to people swearing their heads off, shouting and screaming, come on then, hit me, do this, do that, I just sit there and incredulous thinking, why? What would you actually do if something appeared in front of you and slapped you and knocked you flying across the room?
Pee their pants and run.
I think you're right, yeah.
Just pee their pants and run. That's what they do.
Actually, I think people need to be more aware of what is out there that they are playing with.
Yes. Well, and that's all perspective too. People, I've been challenged all my life, I was actually recently called the spawn of Satan because I do spirit, I talk to spirit, right? And I'm like, okay. And they go, oh, no, you shouldn't be doing that and blah, blah, blah. And I've had pastors come after me over the years. And it's like, I don't do anything wrong. And I believe in God creator. I mean, that's my base, okay? Yeah. So I believe in God creator. So therefore, I believe anything is possible. And because I do the work with those prayers in place and those protections in place, I believe that good comes through. And that I'm protected. So
Definitely. I mean, this used to be when we used to run the youth group. It was a Christian youth group. We still follow our faith, but we don't go to church anymore due to what we do. People in church just like everything's demonic. You're dealing with demons all the time. And it's like, well, we're not. But
no, it's the man in religion, Sean. It's the man in religion. That's all.
It. Definitely, it's the thing I like about the paranormal is it brings so many people from different beliefs and backgrounds and faiths together, looking for the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and again, there's, I'm a very spiritual-based person, and I don't believe that, there's any one wrong way or any best way to, to connect with spirit or God or the higher self or Buddha or Isis, or if you're Jewish, or it doesn't matter to me as long as you respect others in that spiritual belief. But once you put that man in religion, it's totally different.
Definitely. Do you think that is a lot of the problems in the paranormal world today, that people don't respect each other enough?
Well, yeah, I think, they don't respect each other, let alone spirit. They don't, they don't respect, the fact that the history that some of these people have gone through, and they sit there. And again, not all of them, because I do know many people in the paranormal research field, and that do shows or do hunts that are very respectful.
Yeah.
But I think because, again, many people in general don't respect each other as human beings, they're not going to respect spirit.
That's very true. I've got a question for you. Sharon Wainwright, pronounce this right, Petkovsek. But I wonder if our fear of dark energies and that thought process can leave us vulnerable to those energies.
Fear always will leave us vulnerable. It is my opinion that it will always leave us vulnerable. It will always hold us in positions of not being able to move forward with things in our lives or make connections of things or to people in our lives. Fear is very strong. And if we do not address it, fear can cause illness, fear can cause death, fear can cause many things. So yeah, I do believe that fear is a big factor with many negative things, including spirit. And I can guarantee you, and I'm sure, Sean, you've been in this position, like you were just telling us about the experience you had, where fear, can also kind of affect how you respond to things.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
when on investigations, if people are going into that investigation with fear of what they're going to discover, if there is anything negative, do you think it could latch onto that fear and sense that fear?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think they're just like people, only they see through our BS better than people do. I think they know when they can get a person scared. And one of the things that I always kind of chuckle about, and some of the people that I even tease them about, is they go into a place and they'll say, well, if you're here, knock on the wall. Okay, so they knock on the wall. If you're here, say something into my recorder. And they say something into the recorder. Then they go, well, I said I'd leave, but you know what? Give me one more bang. Okay, so they go, bam, and something bangs on the wall really hard.
Yeah.
And they're about ready to pee their pants. And that's fear. And they did that because, they are, if you're getting an intelligent response, it'd be like me sitting with you, right? And saying, we'll do it over again. Well, you got tired of it too. It's not a dog and pony show.
Yeah, exactly. It does make me laugh when you see it on the TV shows and you see it in real life on investigations when people say, I want you to move this table, and the table moves, and they jump 3 foot in the air and run out of the room. You're thinking, well, why? You've just asked for that.
Yeah, it's like, hello, didn't you just ask it to do it? Yeah, I don't know. I laugh.
What's your thoughts on tech in today's investigations?
I think the tech is amazing. Some of the tech is just, I like the Tesla machine that you bring in and can charge the air so that they're not really tapping into your energy. Spirit doesn't tap into your energy. I do like old school. I do like the recorders and the night vision static cameras that sit still while you're walking around. But tech has come so far, even for us as humans. So for it to be kind of translated into us trying to prove to not only ourselves, I guess, because I believe anyway, but to actually have it come through and have solid proof that, it's not in our minds, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
I do think it's addictive, though.
Oh, it is. On next week's show, it's all about tech and the latest apps that are out there and things like that, and do they really work? Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot to be said. I mean, a while ago, I had so much tech, it was unreal. I got rid of it all, went back to the old school, but now I'm dabbling a little bit more again in some of the newer tech. It seems to sort of advanced a little bit more than it was even 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I like, one of my favorites is the SLS.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, how can you just not... I mean, how can you not just be floored by that? When you're sitting there watching and somebody, even if you do an experiment and you set somebody, say, on a bed and you say, okay, and they're sitting there and you're watching them and you put this SLS camera up in front of them and you're watching them, but they can't see it. And they go, wow, it's getting really cold on my left side. Wow, I'm really cold on my left elbow. And you're viewing through this SLS, this stick figure that just reached over and touched this person on their elbow.
Yeah,
I
fantastic.
mean, how freaky is it? That's just so cool. I mean, you can't just shove that away, So yeah, that's really cool. I love it.
It does make me laugh when you see that up and then somebody will say, oh yeah, but that was the SLS light reflected off the bed frame that caught on this. And you're like, well, how can it be?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. That's a stick figure and the room is completely dark. Sorry. Really
a theory I've got, I mean, this is a personal theory, that TV shows, a lot of what they catch, they're not actually allowed to broadcast due to causing fear and panic.
Well, it's really funny you brought. Well, no, I don't believe in coincidence. It's called synchronicity. Yesterday, the article I'm talking about was actually just about that, and the fact that back in the 1920s and 30s, right, 1940s, when spiritualism was starting to really, actually in the 20s, when it was really starting to be big over here in the U.S. especially, that was one of the things that was shut down. People like in the Masonic Lodge and the Freemasons, they were free thinkers and they were the best of the best, and they actually said that they didn't feel people were ready to see the reality of being able to touch on that spirit, there is life after death. So knowing some people that have done TV shows, knowing some people that have been asked to come and do pilots for shows, they've been told sometimes to provoke, to be more, be more energetic, make it more of a theatrical thing. And it's like, it's not like that, So these people kind of walked away from it. And yet there have been things that they won't put on air. So yeah, I do believe that. I do believe that there are powers that be in media that allow us to see reality or not see reality, if that makes sense, or skew what we see.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that's the reason? I mean, everybody says it's because accusations of fakery and things, that they put the disclaimer on at the beginning, this is for entertainment purposes only. But I believe that disclaimer is just to make people think that it is all fake and it's all just for entertainment and for show. So they don't take the findings seriously.
They put that on there for legal purposes.
Yeah.
That's a legal loophole. That's exactly what it is. It's a legal loophole. Those are the people that are aware or that have connection to spirit or do the work you do know that a lot of it's not fake. Some of it, you just can't dismiss it. Now, I'm not saying all the shows out there or all the hunt teams that are out there are legit. I don't say that at all. I mean, there's, I'll throw this out there. They'll probably skew me for this, but I don't care. Evangelists, in the church, they're evangelist church, some of them are real and some of them are not.
Exactly.
People that are telling you they want $25 for them to, a piece for them, and they'll put you on no, that's not how it works.
No, definitely not.
And it's the same thing with spirit, that's not how it works. So what's real and what's not real. And when you watch these shows, especially now, I would say maybe 10, 15 years ago, the shows that were out were probably pushing some of the stuff that they were finding. Like pushing it a little bit, weren't really finding. But the stuff that's out there now, I would say probably 85% of it, you can't just say, yeah, no. It's like, yeah, wow, let me watch that again.
Definitely.
I've done it with my kids.
Yeah. I mean, do you think when groups and individuals catch things on the cameras when they're out on a hunt themselves investigating, And they put it on social media, and then it gets ripped apart on social media with every explanation that you could possibly think of. That it stops people putting stuff out there.
Yes.
And people come up with some incredulous ideas as to what it could be.
Yes. I definitely do. I don't even have to stop and think about it. It's the same thing. My father, I was adopted. My father was French Canadian and Cherokee. Okay. I'm Native. I didn't grow up on a res. I was adopted and put into a Catholic family at 7 months old. Okay. I have Native American people that have never met me, that are nowhere near where I live, that have no clue who I am, that go on and say, well, you're not Native, or you're not this, or you're not that, and how dare you do, and they don't have a clue who I am. Yeah. So you put up something crazy like what you caught. Like, okay, I was just sitting here and I caught it on my security camera. My curtains just completely opened and shut on their own. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're going to have, people that look at it and say, wow, that's really cool. And then you're going to have people that say, oh, yeah, you're full of it. Okay. I have friends that live down in Florida. They're very dear friends of mine, originally from Michigan, and they're like late 60s, early 70s. Couple years back, caught on their film, their 2 adult twin sons died a year apart from each other. Okay. And they were 30 and 31. And the boys connect with them in ways that it's just astounding. I mean, yeah. It's just simply astounding. And their parents were sitting upstairs in one of the kids' bedrooms, in a darkened room at night, and they were talking to the kids, and nobody else was in the house. There's no mirrors in the room, and they had their video camera up connecting like to sound, for sound bits. And about 8 seconds into it, you saw one of the boys walk across the other side of the wall. I mean, it was real quick. Wow. And it was like a full body, but you could see through them. And they didn't even see it. They went on to continue to tape for a long time. They went to upload it and look at it, and they saw it and sent it over to me. And this was a couple years, and I'm going, oh, my God, that's Joe or Danny, because they were twins. It's like, oh, my God, it was so obviously them. And they put it out. People that know them have seen it. But, yeah, you're not going to put something out like that because they're going to say, oh, well, this was your grief talking. Matter of fact, I put it to somebody who's very high up in the paranormal, and you would know him if I told you his name. And he was like, oh, they should be careful of that because that could be demonic. And I'm like, it's not demonic. It's their son. So, yeah, do people? Yeah, no. And I think there's a lot of things out there that people are aware of that they're not going to make public. Would you? Would you want to be sitting under that scrutiny if you didn't do what you did, or me with what I do?
We've had it in the past. We've put years ago. We'd put our findings out there and things, and you'd get somebody we'd put an EVP out, and then they'd pull can I examine this? Like, yeah, of course you can. They'd download the EVP, then come back saying that's somebody's zipper, and they'd put it through that many different filters and things like that they'd turned somebody saying hello into a zzz. Yeah. And you're like, well, you could do that with anything.
Yeah.
But they thought that as an explanation. So we just stopped. I've got another question for you. Yeah. Off Kelly, she's put, what paranormal TV show does Bear enjoy the most?
Can I do that? Can I plug them?
Yes, you can.
It's from the UK. It's Ghost Dimension with Bex and Sean Reynolds.
All right.
Bex Palmer and Sean Reynolds. I like it because they're real. Yeah. They're in their 30s. Paul and Jane are there. I like it because they go to older places, but it's real. They use some new equipment, but they use old stuff. So, yeah, definitely Ghost Dimension.
It's on Amazon, isn't it, that one, I think, over here. So I haven't seen that yet, but I'll have to have a look at that one.
Yep, it's over on Amazon Prime, actually.
I'll have to have a look at that, definitely. Have you ever been to the UK?
No. And you know what? I actually was planning on going 2 years ago, and I tried to get my passport, and that was when there was a lot of international when the bombs were going off and all that stuff. And they were like really putting the screws to stuff. And I was having such a hard time getting a passport cleared. And I've got no reason. I mean, there's nothing in my background that's bad or, what have you. I haven't been in prison or, I haven't murdered anybody. And I just could not, for whatever reason, get a passport to go through. And I finally, after I don't know, about $700-800 finally said, yeah, well, I guess I'm not supposed to be going anywhere. So I just haven't watched it.
You're stuck over in the States now.
Yeah, I'm stuck. Yeah. Way of putting it, I'm stuck in the States.
Where do you see the future of the paranormal?
I think that you're going to see more and more come out about spirit, and I think there's going to be more and more people walking away from man-made religions and going to a more spirit. You're already seeing like a spiritual people walking away from churches, and there's going to be a great divide, I think, between the man and religion and spiritual people. And I think that the spiritual people are going to begin to embrace more and more what we now consider paranormal will become more everyday occurrence, that people will accept it more and more as it goes on, for sure. But I also think there'll be the haters throwing holy water and spewing out stuff at us saying we're, as they tell me, I'm the devil's spawn. We aren't through that yet, Sean. We're not through that.
I don't think that'll ever change. I mean, do you think? I think that's born out of fear.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say it
changes their sort of in the box perception of everything.
Yeah. But that they probably don't believe there's anybody here other than human life in the universe. So yeah, that's another topic to go another day.
I'm just going to jump in with a couple of quick announcements before I forget again and I get shouted at. Parasearch Radio Facebook group page. We've got a competition running for tarot reading with our very own Kerry Greenaway. If you jump onto the Parasearch Radio group page and check that one out, all the terms and conditions are on there. That's an excellent prize. Tomorrow night, many of you, probably all of you, will know about Guy Lion Playfair. Tomorrow night is a tribute to Guy, who died, I think it was today or yesterday. We're running a rerun of the KTPF Reload interview show with Guy, so that should be very interesting. He has some very good ideas, very knowledgeable person, Guy Lion Playfair, so that one's worth listening to tomorrow night. Following my show at 9 o'clock tonight, we have Penny with the Haunted Histories. So if you want to just refresh the page when we're finished here at 8 o'clock, and then you can have a listen into Penny with the Haunted Histories show, which is always very interesting, some intriguing things on there. So just refresh the page at 9 o'clock when we've done and have a listen into Penny. So thank you very much. Right. I mean, obviously, religion. Do you think religion's got any part to play in paranormal investigating, or like say things that we're going to move on from it?
I think that, well, again, it's divided because there's spiritual and there's religion. So do I believe that spirituality will be part of paranormal? I think it'll be a bigger play in it because I think it'll be more embraced, and you'll have more people that will embrace the fact that, spirit can be heard, especially with, like you said, all the tech that's coming up. As far as religion goes, I think religion is kind of stuck in the mud, and a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it is stuck in the man-made ideology of the Bible and this is the word. And I'm not saying that the Bible doesn't have truth in it. That's not what I'm saying at all before everybody sends me all these emails. But the Bible is a teaching tool, and it's been interpreted by the men in religion, in many different kinds of religion, for centuries. Yeah. And it's been altered to kind of bend the masses, I guess would be a way to put it. And, no more perfect religion to show that than the Catholic religion, which I was born and raised in. So I get it. Yeah. They did it, Look at, through the Crusades, you can't call that religion. That's the man in religion. That's, to me, is what religion is. Yeah. Spirituality is a whole different thing, The prophets that have walked the world, they didn't want bad things for people. That's not what it was about. So man has twisted it. So spirituality, absolutely, I believe, will have a bigger impact and kind of combine more with paranormal in the future, as it already is gaining ground. But religion, no. Yeah.
Totally agree. I've got two more questions in the chat room. Mm-hmm. Both of them off Tanya Louise Baker. It's got one. What is your most memorable investigation and location?
I would have to say that there was a cemetery actually up here I lived next to that was the earliest graves were like 1840, and went out and sat in the nighttime on a very clear, warm August night, and we had simple tech, 35 millimeter camera set on night on a tripod and recorders, and you couldn't explain other than it wasn't like critters coming through. It was voices we heard. It was people we heard. It was bangs that we heard. It was walking through by tombstones that we heard, the old ones, and we were given names, and we actually wound up finding those particular tombstones that were the old couple of the oldest ones that were actually there. And it was a positive thing, and I had actually taken teenagers with me. So figure that one out. That was like they were scared and you're trying to, but it was the most memorable because we got some really clear stuff through it. I also worked at Children's Hospital in Detroit. And we had tunnels that connected many of the hospitals that were underground, and I worked the afternoon and midnight shifts. And I would go down there and always hear things down there that, you couldn't explain away as being, a boiler from another hospital or what have you, or you'd see spirit. I've seen spirit walking. So it's kind of hard for someone who's seen and heard spirit most of my life to really pick just one thing.
It just made me think that when you said the oldest gravestones, the 1800s, we've got a cemetery just down the road from us that we go to every now and again. We use it as like a refresher when that went out for a while. And a couple of the gravestones there date back to the 1100s.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you can't. That's the best place, to even get your feet wet with it. So, yeah, absolutely. Now, I've had... have you had like people in your family, like from your family that has passed, that have come to visit you before, Sean?
Yeah.
I had, when I was 13, that was probably my biggest, like at that time, my grandmother came a few days after she passed, and she sat on the end of my bed and she told me things and asked me to do things, and everything she told me and said came true through over the years. And I remember, I'll never forget my dad opening the door because he heard voices, and he opened my bedroom door and he said, "Are you okay?" And he looked at his mother-in-law. He was like, his face said it all. And then she disappeared, and
wow.
I says, "Wow, it's cold in here." And he just kind of walked forward. I go, "Did you see Grandma?" And he just says, "Wow, it's really cold in here. You should lay back down. It's not time for you to get back up yet." early because it was like 5:30 in the morning. He was getting ready for work, and it's like, yeah.
That might actually answer the next question that Tanya's put as well. But most memorable spirit character.
Yeah, that would have to be my grandmother coming through. And I also had when I was first getting into this in my teen years, I literally had 3 spirits that showed up at my home. One was an older woman, one was a man probably in his 30s, and one was a gal that was probably in her late 20s, early 30s. And the oldest woman that was with them in spirit form tried to smother me. And it was like I was in bed and I could see them and I was scared, poopless. And at that time, and it was like I was really scared of them and I could hear them talking. They were walking around the room and she didn't like me. And the guy was like lackadaisical and the young woman was like, don't do that to her. Don't do that to her. And I remembered them. And in the future, and I didn't find this out until 1993. And that had happened to me in the 70s. And in 1993, my dad saw them walking in the house the month before he got so sick and passed. And then I found out at the same time as he told me that my niece had seen them when her mom, my older sister, had passed away, and it was in the same house. So whether the house was on ley lines, and none of us had told each other about any of it, but we described them to the T. So I would have to say that was probably my most, negative, but uniforming, because everybody else had seen them too, and I think they were death dealers is what I think they were.
Yeah, so that sounds like it, doesn't it, that one? I've got 4 minutes left. What's your thought on Ouija boards? Let's chuck that one in.
Well, Ouija boards are definitely portals of dimension going in and out of other dimensions. I'm not a fan if you don't know how to use them or you don't know how to protect yourself. But I don't have issues using them if like a talking board or even a table with a glass, if the people know what they're doing with them. Do I think they should be sold to kids? No. Absolutely, positively, no. But paranormal groups that use them, again, as long as they're using them with protection, like we were talking about earlier, and proper respect, so that they're not taunting things, and that they remember to close that circle when they're done with them. So it's kind of like, no, Yeah,
I mean, I've seen it on investigations where somebody just pulled the board out of a bag, chucked it on a table, and gone then, and people just got on it and started using it. And it's like, well,
no. That's
why?
Not healthy and not safe. I believe they can cause a lot of trouble. And again, I believe that they're portals, so spirit can come through, and dark energies can come through and get, like I said, kids, get them addicted to it and can get them kind of doing things they shouldn't be doing. So I absolutely. They have to be respected.
Yeah, so Tanya's just put a very good comment in the chat room. She's, Toys R Us sell pink ones, but they're closing down now. Karma.
Yeah. That's Parker Brothers karma, because they're the ones that actually bought out the rights to the spirit boards, and the spirit board was actually born as we know it today in New York. But that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that TV and films has a lot to blame about the the reputation of spirit boards?
Yeah, absolutely, they do. And actually, the spirit boards that we're talking about right now, the Ouija board, is actually a brand, and that was also has the code of the Freemasons, which was also instilled through entertainment. That was also put in and pressured to be put there by the Freemasons, and I actually have researched that. So it's all about, again, the bottom line and money. It's the way they used to connect and send messages to each other in the human. So entertainment industry have made them into what they have. It's like, vampires and werewolves and, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. So if film gets hold of a legend or a myth, and that's it. Next thing, it's everybody's scared stiff of it.
Yep. Absolutely.
So Sharon Wainwright just put, as children, we stupidly used them in the attic in our 1800s farmhouse.
Yeah, no. Again, children shouldn't play with matches. Children shouldn't play with Ouija boards.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, myself, I've never been on one, never want to go on one. I've been there when people have used them. I've watched it, but it's just something that it's never been tempted to have a go on one.
Yeah, it's kind of me. I look back when I was younger, and people that used to use acid and mescaline and coke never touched the stuff, never had a desire to. Well, that's kind of the same way I put the Ouija board. Really don't like them, really don't have a desire to sit with them. You know, you just have to protect yourself.
Definitely. Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you, Bear, and I want to thank you hugely for jumping in at the last minute.
Not a problem. My joy. Glad to get to know you.
And yeah, I think we'll have to arrange another night. Definitely. There's so much more we can talk about.
All right. Well, you have a blessed night, and thanks for everybody for listening.
And yes, thank you very much. And thank you all for listening. And hopefully you'll all be listening again next week when I'll be talking to Michael Postlethwaite about tech and apps. Do they really work? And with that, thank you all very much. Back over to you, Carrie.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.